Grand Rising, everybody. Grand Rising. How you doing? This is your Coach Renz, and we are on our live today with What's Wrong with the Bible. Of course, we're going to give our 5 minutes to let people get on. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. If you're finding me for the first time, this is Deconstructing Christianity, the new name. And I am your host, Coach Renz. And on Tuesday, we do our What's Wrong with the Bible live. We're going to try not to get censored by TikTok today. So for my TikTokers, I need you to go ahead and like. Oh, my bad, TikTok. I didn't turn the microphone on. So what's up, TikTok? How y'all doing? Hopefully we won't get censored again today. Simply because I have my cigar and all the nitpickers on there. So today we're continuing our live on Tuesdays where we go over Deuteronomy, where we're in Deuteronomy, where we are literally reading this book word for word, breaking down a few things here and there as to why we walked away from this book last week. If you missed the show, then you can go to my YouTube channel, which is now Deconstructing Christianity, and you will be able to see in the playlist the other lives. You catch me live, Manny? Appreciate it. Welcome to the show. Welcome. So we did 27 and 28 last week. We had that's the big part where the Hebrew Israelites pitched they fit on 27 and 28. 28 mostly where they make their claim to fame as a transatlantic slave trade. So we covered that last week. And this week we are doing 29 and 30. It's all about renewing that covenant. You got to constantly renew this covenant, and about how you don't have free will. If you really look at what we're going to go through today, there is no such thing as free will according to this deity. And we will see that and discover that today. It's your first time? Cool. We got a lot of things planned. I'm working on a lot of things for the remainder of this year so that we begin to build a bigger and more cohesive community between us, and where we can communicate together, where we can have events. We're definitely going to do a meet and greet up cruise, a seminar cruise, I should say. We just switched it from being at a resort to that or a hotel in the woods, because that's just going to be a better situation. Grand Rising Melchizedek, Crimson, Trauma, Julio. So if you're on TikTok, you will not be able to see the comments that people are making on Facebook and YouTube. You won't see the comments on TikTok. If I express any of those, if I answer any of those comments, then I will make sure I read off what exactly they said, so that everybody will be on the same page. On TikTok and YouTube, I'm on StreamYard, so that's one feed, and that's right there. The other feed is up here. So we're going to knock this thing out. I give it about 5 minutes to let people get on. And I don't know what that number is. Keep calling me for the last couple of days. Probably the VA. So we got about 1 more minute before we get started here. About 1 more minute before we get started. After we go through the actual reading. Why Leonard calling me? After we go through the actual reading, then we just have open discussion. The lives usually last for about 2 to 3 hours, somewhere in there, and we have a good time. It's going to get dark, so the lighting is going to get better, and of course the bugs are going to come out because I'm outside. So I look forward to this discussion. For the part that we're going through the reading, if you have statements or questions that pertain to me, we're going to keep it in reference to what we're reading. Afterwards, we can go into other things. Neither one of these chapters are too long, so we should be all right. Now, on the other days, Wednesdays and Thursdays, our lives are all over the place, meaning that it's different discussions, different subject matters, that sort of thing. Tuesday is the only one where we're definitely doing What's Wrong with the Bible. and we're going through this whole situation of why we deconstructed. As I said on the video that I posted earlier today, this channel is really about people who have chosen to deconstruct from Christianity. That's it. And in using that logic, it'll allow you to deconstruct from any religion or any conditioning that you've ever had to go under. So that is the premise of the channel. So I hope you guys understand that when I don't embroil myself into stupid conversations with people who just want to argue, right? So we're about to get started here. I gotta light my cigar. TikTok be tripping on my cigar, so I gotta go over here. But if they give me the age restriction, I don't care. Then I'll just go ahead and be like, forget it. Forget it, forget it, forget it. Actually, I don't care. I'm just gonna have my cigar the way I want to have it. TikTok ain't gonna tell me what to do. We're not gonna have that, bull. All right. All right. I am not putting on my glasses, so if I mess up some of the reading, I gotta lean back, gotta lean back, gotta lean back. So now we are at a situation where it should be winding down. The Deuteronomy should be winding down. Right? They trip about the cigar, but they allow all the other craziness. That's why I don't understand TikTok at all. It makes no sense to me. Right? It makes no sense. Simplified Devil Dog, Carlos. So Moses is trying to wind this down. You know, Moses was told that he is not going to be able to go uh, into the promised land. So he's been spending these last few chapters just rehashing and rehashing and rehashing. And he's going to rehash just a little bit more. And really, it's a big time fear tactic that many Christians try to use in order to get people to remain in this religion. So let's get started, shall we? Oh, I'm sorry. I just got distracted, right? Jose from Puerto Rico. Where in Puerto Rico are you, sir? There's a reason why I'm asking. Where in Puerto Rico are you? Um, but let me go ahead and start reading, and then I'm sure Jose will let me know as we go. You know what? Let me go ahead and tell you the reason. We are looking at moving to Puerto Rico in the next 6 to 8 months, and we're looking at Carolina. We're looking to move to Carolina in Puerto Rico. So that's why I asked. Spoiler alert. Got to get off the mainland. So now in 29, Moses is going to continue with his talking. Utando? I haven't seen that locality yet. Okay, cool, cool, cool. I see we got people from all over the place on here. All right, so to get into the reading. These are the words of the covenant which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the people of Israel in the land of Moab, besides the covenant which he had made with them at Horeb. And if you don't remember what the covenant at Horeb, he had to make a new covenant with them because the men had went off and they started sleeping with the Moabite women. They started worshiping their gods, and then this guy had to kill her. They had to kill some of their own people, and then they went and, supposedly killed all the Moabites, right? So that's the reference that he's making to the two covenants that's been made. It seems like they have to keep making a covenant. It's like if you made a covenant, that should be enough. Like, stop with the covenants. Oh no, I don't smoke Cubans. Oh, you're in the mountains. Okay, gotcha. Zambia will be there in 2026. So to continue. And Moses summoned all Israel and said to them, "You have seen all that the Lord did before your eyes in the land of Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his servants and to all his land." Well, actually, these people who he's speaking to right now has never seen, oh, thank you for the rose, has never seen any of the things that happened in Egypt. The people he's speaking to right now were those who were under the age of 20. Well, so let me rephrase. A few of them may remember, but for the most part, these people they're taking it based on the word of what their parents told them. Because remember, he said, no, all of you have seen this. All of you came out of Egypt, except for those who were under 20. You're not going to be able to go into this promised land. So this isn't people who have seen all this stuff or who endured this heavy slavery or anything like that. But the great trials which your eyes saw, signs, the signs and the great wonders. But to this day, the Lord has not given you a mind to understand, or eyes to see, or ears to hear, which is an interesting concept. And I said this on one of the videos I posted today. Please go back and watch those videos and share them. But these are people who supposedly saw the pillar of fire that led them through the desert, for this journey. Saw the cloud, and the cloud hovers when they should go and when they should stop. When the cloud hovers, stop. When the fire is going at night, go. They are the people who have seen this deity with hardcore evidence, so they should just know this God exists. But yet, he's saying that he has not given you a mind to understand, or eyes to see, or ears to hear. Maybe the mind to not understand everything that's going on, but I think your eyes and ears have seen and heard what's all been going on. You supposedly saw serpents and biting you, and then you look at a golden serpent and you were okay. You saw earthquakes swallow up a man and his whole clan. You've seen rocks that just spew out water. So what the hell is this? You don't have eyes to see or ears to hear. You've seen all of this, and you still don't understand that this is your God, that these are the covenants that you should follow. Let's be real, people. For all of us who have deconstructed, got a question here. For everyone who has deconstructed, if all of a sudden you get undeniable proof, like the God comes down and says, I'm God, and pillar of fire comes down, and the clouds, and the earth opens up. He does all these things that are beyond our natural comprehension, right? Beyond what we would think a space alien with great technology has, but like really hardcore, bam, this is it. What's up, Kevin? Bam, this is it. How the hell are you not gonna believe that? You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? How can people, especially in that time frame, when they didn't have as much scientific knowledge as we have today, how do they not now know that this God exists and would say, okay, if these are the rules, I'm going to follow the rules, right? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. It's just the problem with this portion of Deuteronomy, and we need to have this in mind as we go through it, is that this is the latter part of Deuteronomy. This is being written most likely during the Babylonian captivity, or being edited during the Babylonian captivity. And when or prior to that, during the Assyrian diaspora. So the mindset here is that the Israelite people are in danger. They're living a life where the Assyrians or the Babylonians have conquered them, and so he said you'll call it Project Bluebeam. So they've conquered them. So their mindset is we're in desperation, we're in need again. It's just like, and the reason why we're in this need is because we haven't been keeping all the covenants. So that's the mindset of the writers at this time frame, because you gotta, if you don't know, Deuteronomy is written in three main stages. It is a before the Assyrians, during the Assyrians, and during the Babylonian captivity. So and then there's some more editing that happens after the Babylonian captivity, and biblical linguists have identified it to be such based on the way it's been written and the ideas behind it. Thank you for all the love on TikTok so that they don't cancel us. All the hearts. So how do these people not know? And then it goes on to say, I have led you for 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes have not worn out upon you, and your sandals have not worn off your feet. Is it me, or would y'all like to know, like, that's some serious business stuff there? 40 years? You've been walking around in the desert for 40 years? All that friction? And your sandals are still good? All that walking? And your sandals are still good? Your clothes for 40 years in the desert, and they're still good? That's how does you have to have a level of belief to accept that as being true. You have to, in order for that to be true. With some of our best efforts today, we can't keep clothes that way. It's hard, I should say. But if you're constantly wearing them and you're working in them, you're sweating in them, you're walking and traveling in them, that's just some amazing bullshit, right? Tim said they got some polyester. But you have not eaten bread, and you have not drunk wine or strong drink, that you may know that I am the Lord your God. Didn't they make bread with manna? But okay. And when you came to this place, Shihon, the king of Heshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us to battle, but we defeated them. We took their land and gave it to the inheritance of the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of the Manassites. Therefore, be careful to do the words of this covenant, that you may prosper in all that you do. So, if you remember, they supposedly defeated Og, and when we talked about Og, and they were Og and Heshbon, Hog and Shion, we talked about how in the Enochian literature, it tells that when Noah was doing his 40 days, when Noah was doing his boat thing, rather, that he strapped Og, the king of king of Bashan, to the top of the boat, and that is how that king survived. And then from that, it doesn't say who he got down with to create kids and everything, but from that you still had giants, because the king, because Og was supposed to still be a giant. Now that's in the Enochian literature, which is not part of this Bible. It's not accepted. So appreciate it. Lots of love from Kenya. Uh, so that doesn't work. And say, how can someone walk from Israel to Egypt for 40 years? Right. Well, remember, they were being punished. That's why they walked around in circles, because they didn't want to accept it. They originally got there very quickly, but then they walked around in circles for 40 years because they didn't think that this guy would deliver them to uh, deliver over the Canaanites to them, the people in Jericho. But I say, don't know too much about nothing, but be careful when you move to Puerto Rico. You may find out. You may find out, is Jesus exist before me? I don't understand what you mean by that one, Jose. Exactly. So anyway, let's continue. Oh, we're gonna do the TikTok freezing thing today. So, where are we? Where are we? Uh, and if you remember, there was group of a group of them who decided that they didn't want to cross over into the land of Israel. So that's what it's referring to by the ones who have taken that land, half of the tribe of Manasseh, and then the tribe of Reuben, and the tribe of Gad. Didn't didn't look for it, didn't try to do that. They didn't want to go into the promised land, so they took their inheritance. TikTok is Why is my TikTok live started tripping? I can shoot all the TikTok videos all day, and then the lives be tripping. But anyway, we'll continue. Ooh, is it 3 in the morning? Oh, you're Gabby. You. Ooh, I appreciate you. Let's see if I can restart the TikTok. Y'all, give me a second. Mm-hmm. Why can't we just have a good old live with TikTok? Why TikTok always gotta be extra? TikTok always gotta be extra. They gave me 2 restrictions already. So anyway, Ron, who are you talking about? Everything. Y'all really need to understand what Freemasonry is about before y'all make these comments and statements. Many people just are going off of what somebody else has told them. Hakuna Mungu. Mungu? Hakuna Mungu. Okay. There is no God. Gotcha. All right, so let's continue. Let's continue. Grand rising, everybody. You stand this day, all of you, before the Lord your God, the heads of your tribe, your elders and your officers, all the men of Israel, your little ones, your wives, and your sojourners who is in the camp, both he who hews your wood and he who draws your water. Basically, what they just told you right there is that everybody is standing around, everybody's there, and the sojourners are their slaves, because it's referring to the foreigners. The sojourners are the foreigners, and these are the ones that are cutting their wood and drawing their water. So they kind of slipped and slid in there a little bit about some slavery, that it's okay for them to have their slaves, that you may enter into the sworn covenant with the Lord your God, which the Lord your God makes with you this day, that he may establish you this day as his people, and that he may be your God as he has promised you, and he had and as he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Nor is it with you only that I make this sworn covenant, but with him whom is not here with us this day, as well as him who stands here with us this day before the Lord. So we're making another covenant. So same repeated rhetoric over and over again about this covenant that they're supposed to be making with this deity. You know how well how you know how we dwelt in the land of Egypt, and how we came through the midst of the nations through which you passed, and you have seen their detestable things, their idols of wood and stone, of silver and gold, which were among them. Beware these, beware lest there be among you a man or a woman or family or tribe whose heart turns away this day from the Lord your God, Lord our God, to go and serve the gods of the old nation. Lest there, lest there be among you a root bearing poisonous and bitter fruit, one who, when he hears the word of this sworn covenant, bless him in his heart, saying, I shall be safe, though I walk in the stubbornness of my heart. This would lead me to the sweeping away of the moist and the dry alike. So basically what he's saying here is that if you find somebody among you who don't believe in this God, don't agree with this God, don't follow this God, that y'all need to get rid of that dude. That everybody who's there should and well has to believe in this God. And that's going to be the theme of this entire next to this chapter and the next chapter, is that you ain't got a choice. There is no free will choice here. You are to, hey, if there's those around you who don't get down with this God, then you need to do what you did to the ones who, when they had the golden calf, you need to kill them, right? Because nobody, you turn your heart away from this guy, you know, and you want to go serve the other nations. They're poisonous to you. You need to get away from them. You need to get them away from you. So there is no choice here. You don't get choice, right? The Lord would not pardon him. See, the Lord would not pardon him, but rather the anger of the Lord and his jealousy would smote against that man, and the curses written in this book would settle upon him, and the Lord would blot out his name from under the heavens, and the Lord would single him out from all the tribes of Israel for calamity, in accordance with all the curses of the covenant written in this book of the law. And the generations to come, your children who rise up after you, and the foreigners who come from the far lands, would say, when they see the afflictions of that land and the sickness which the Lord has made it sick, the whole land brimstone and salt and burnt out waste, unsown and growing nothing, where no grass can sprout, and overthrow like that of Sodom and Gomorrah, Adamah and Zeboram, which the Lord overthrew in his anger and wrath. Yea, all the nations would say, why has the Lord done this to this land? What means the heat of this great anger? Then men would say, it is because they forsook the covenant of the Lord, the God of their fathers, which had made with them when he brought them out of the land of Egypt, and went and served other gods and worshiped them, and gods whom they had not known and whom they had not allotted to them. Therefore the anger of the Lord was kindled against this land, bringing upon it all the curses written in this book. And the Lord uprooted them from their land in anger and the fury of the great wrath, and cast them into another land as of this day. The secret things belonging to the Lord, but the things that are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do well, that we may do all the words of this law. So basically, when this, if you do not believe in me, I'm going to bring about all the curses. Now, if you was with us last week, we went over all the curses, that the land is going to dry up, the sky is going to be like iron, and one part said the sky was going to be brass, and the ground will be iron. The other part said that the ground will be iron and the sky will be brass. But either way, you ain't getting no rain. Your land is not going to produce fruit. You ain't going to be able to have no babies. You're going to be inflicted with diseases. You're going to suffer if you don't believe in this God. This is the curses that this God says. And the reason for your curses is not accepting or believing in this God. It has nothing to do with whether or not you're a good person or not. It has nothing to do with whether or not you're a good mother, good father, good neighbor. None of those things matter. You save some people's lives, shit don't matter. The only thing that matters is whether or not you believe in this God. And if you don't believe in this God and follow his laws, then this God is going to have anger towards you. Now, what's more powerful? The anger or the God? The anger or the God? Because if the anger is more powerful than the God, then the anger is God. Because a real God cannot be pushed to do anything. Circumstances can't make them do anything. But in this case, it's like, oh, if you don't love me because of my insecurities and my jealousies, I'm going to punish you. So when Christians talk about you have free will to love this God, what kind of free will do you have if the person is saying, either love me or I'm going to heavily brutalize you, which is what that whole part was saying from verse 20, well, a little earlier than 20, but pretty much verse 20 all the way down to the end of this chapter. Love me or I punish you. To put it in more human forms or thought process, when a person is with a mate and that mate says, either love me, and if you love me, I will make sure you have a house and food and clothing. But the moment you don't demonstrate the type of love that I've commanded you to love me, I'm going to beat the living hell out of you. I'm going to strip you bare naked. I'm going to torture you and not feed you. I'm going to make sure that you get diseased up, filled with sicknesses, and I'm not going to be there to assist you or help you or cure you. So you have freedom of choice. Choose one. Choose one. That's not freedom of choice. That's not a freedom of choice at all. A freedom of choice would be more like a guy saying that, hey, I'm here. I can be a benefit to you. But you have the choice to go out here and make this world however you want to make this world. If you be a good person and you do the right things and you do good things and the return on your investments of life return bounty to you, that's you. You pick some good farmland, you irrigate that land, you grow the crops. I'm not even going to get in the way of it. I'm going to let nature take its course. And if you're you're a really good person, I'm just going to recognize you for who you are. Not if you follow me or not. But the choice is yours. If you can follow me, and I give you even more. But if you don't, I'm going to let you define and decide your life. And whatever that definition is, and whatever that, however it results, it's all on you. That would be freedom of choice. And no, Art. Art said, did Pharaoh have a freedom of choice? And he did not. This guy said, I will harden Pharaoh's heart. And he hardened his heart a couple of times. Right? Sheila said, thank you for turning on to Alan Watts. You're more than welcome. So that is not freedom of choice. So we've already had one demonstration of how this guy is not really giving people a freedom of choice to be able to define themselves and live their lives and live according to how they determine they want to live. It's either love me or I'm gonna kill you, or I'm gonna make your life a living hell. Right? Right. Ron is saying, look at what they did in Salem, Massachusetts in the 1700s. This was the church acting just like this God. If you did anything outside of what their normal thought process was, as far as how you are supposed to worship this God, then you were deemed to be a witch or a wizard, and they killed you, or a heretic, and they killed you. And they had dumb stuff. And it was actually worse in England and Spain than it was in the Americas. But they would say stuff like they would tie you to with a stones to your ankles, throw you into a pond. If you were able to come up, then you were considered a witch and they would kill you. But if you drowned, you weren't a witch, and therefore your soul went to heaven. But they killed you. Either way, it is a death sentence, right? It is a complete death sentence. But let's go into chapter 30, because I like to get into our free conversation time frame. Uh, so chapter 30, Moses is still pontificating. And when all these things come upon you, the blessed and the cursed, the blessings and the curse, which I have set before you, and you call them to mind among all the nations where the Lord your God has driven you, and return to the Lord your God, you and your children, and obey his voice in all that I command you to this day, with all your heart and with all your soul. Then the Lord your God will restore your fortunes and have compassion upon you, and he will gather you again from all the peoples where the Lord God has scattered you. So in this is one of those linguistic things that make his archaeological linguistics, yeah, think that this aspect of the Bible was written either during the Assyrian diaspora or the Babylonian diaspora, because it is geared towards the people, giving them hope for the people who have been separated from Jerusalem, who have been scattered about. And so that's one of the passages that they look at concerning that aspect of it. Just lost my place. The Lord has scattered you. If your outcasts are in the uttermost parts of the heaven, and there the Lord your God will gather you, and from there he will fetch you. And the Lord your God will bring you into the land which your fathers possessed, that you may possess it, and he will make you more prosperous and numerous than your fathers. We've heard that part many times before, and they still hadn't done it. And the Lord your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your offspring, so that you will love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, that you may live. Now, there again is an indicator that you don't have free will. That when you come from being scattered, and then you start, and this, when you come from this, God is going to circumcise your heart so that you will love him. Now, to circumcise something, in this instance, so you have the circumcision of the penis earlier as an indicator that you are faithful to this God. You're open to being faithful to this God. You are dedicated to this God. So now he's going to circumcise your heart, because these people thought that your emotions were generated from your heart, your connections, that your spirit, your energy, your ka comes from your heart. So for them, they were in the mindset of thinking that when this God circumcise your heart and like cleave off the portions of your heart that, or your emotions that keeps you from being able to love this God, he's going to circumcise so that you, all you're going to do is you want to love this God, right? This is why they say, you'll hear many Christians quote, well, make the statement that God put his laws written on your heart, that God has circumcised your heart. This is where they get that from. But if this was the case, then the people would never have left this God, right? They would have always stayed with this God. But of course, the people know, and they're talking about your children will be circumcised. My parents believed in this God. I don't. Well, my mom does. My dad didn't. But I didn't grow up with my dad for the most part. I didn't meet him until later in my life. Well, I knew him, but I didn't spend quality time with him until later on in my life, until I was in my 20s. But the point is, I grew up with a Christian upbringing. Grandparents, or grandmom, mother, aunts, all them. There was no circumcision of my heart. This guy did not force his will. But according to this story, he's forcing his will on these people. Um, EJ, do me a favor. Stop writing in caps. Stop writing in caps. If you can't gain attention from people through regular writing, then stop writing in caps. Just a respect for everybody. So I respect you for being here, but all the caps, let's not do that. All right, let's continue. And the Lord your God will put all these curses upon your foes and enemies who persecute you. And you shall again obey the voice of the Lord and keep all his commandments, which I command you this day. I got a question for some people here. If this God is going to put all those curses back on those people who persecuted them, when did that happen with the when did that happen with this damn TikTok is killing me. When did that happen with the people of Rome? When did Rome go through all these persecutions? Because um, did not Rome send the Jews all out after Titus conquered? Did not the Babylonians send the Jews out? Did not the Assyrians send the Jews out? Did not this Spain not disperse the Jews and exile them? Did Portugal not exile them? Did Italy not exile them? Did Germany not try to kill all of them and exile them? None of those things happened. None of those countries went through all these curses and everything to which they're talking about, where their land is not producing, their children are not producing, and all that sort of thing. For those Hebrew Israelites, when when is America going to not produce? And when is America is going to be inflicted with all these curses? Because the enemies of the so-called Jewish people have never incurred these curses to which they are talking about from any time frame since this has been written, right? Now, empires come, empires go, but to incur it is not like the Babylonians were were conquered by the Jewish people. They were conquered by the Persians, and then the Persians were conquered by the Greeks, and then the Greeks, they lost the land for a little bit of time with the Maccabees, but then they got it back again, and then the Romans conquered them, and then the Ottomans, and then the Europeans, and then back to the Ottomans and Europeans, and they flip-flopped for a while. The only enemies of these people who are suffering right now are the Palestinians, who never attacked them, during those time frames. Never, they didn't go to Germany and attack them. They didn't do none of those things. They were just people who were living there under different, and they were living under occupation. Like, it's not like the Palestinians were in control, they lived under occupation as well. So when has these curses ever been inflicted on the people who attacked them and separated them and killed them? When has that ever happened? I ain't seen it happen yet. Hasn't happened. See, Jay Steele, instead of asking me a question like that, have you ever studied history? Just make your point. Because evidently I'm making comments about history, right? I'm making comments about history. When have the land of Spain, Portugal, Germany, Italy, when have they ever been salted? When did the people go through all these different curses? When did America go through all these curses for their persecution of Jewish people, for their if you're a Hebrew Israelite, for their transatlantic slavery? When? Yeah, I figured that's the kind of answer you're going to give. All you said was Jesus loves you, because they love to ask a question. We ever studied history, but then they don't have a response because you cannot pinpoint any of that. The Roman Empire lived for another 500 plus, about 500 years after they exiled these people out of the Levant, and then all it did was just break up into smaller kingdoms. Where was I? Where was I? I was just going seeing some of the comments. What other curses? So most of your curses you're going to find in 27, 20, well, 26, 27, and 28 of Deuteronomy. I think 28 has most of the curses. Yeah, 28 has the curses. And these curses that they're going to be sent away in slavery. They're going to, their land is going to be become desolate, that they will be, their enemies will be able to attack them and kill them. They will not be able to have children. Their animals won't be able to produce animals and produce byproducts of animals. So you got, and they're not, they're going to go through droughts and all these sorts of things. So those are those curses, mainly in 28. Some of it is in 27 of Deuteronomy. But those places, they didn't incur curses from this God. So Neil was asking, what is a curse? Oh, what is a curse exactly? I just read that in all straight up wrong. But those would be the curses. The negative things that happen to you would be the curses. Jay Steele on TikTok just said something that um, I was going to talk about in a video tomorrow. When the Christian Zionists use the term and the verse that says, "And I will bless those that bless Israel, and I will curse those that curse Israel," uh, we haven't seen that in action. But they like to use that because they want to hasten this end times. This is the only reason they like Jewish people, because in all other accounts, Jewish people are just like Muslims to them. Really, they don't believe in the same God. But because of that one line, they always siding with the Jewish people, with Israel, and that's why they side with them, killing the Palestinians and killing kids and children. Correct. King Leopold of Belgium and Leopold III from France, and the Charlemagne, and all destroyed Africa and killed millions. Rome. Yeah, it was just a continuation of Rome, just broken up into smaller kingdoms. So let's continue so we can get through this chapter. Where was I? All right. Da da da. And the Lord your God shall be cursed upon the foes of the enemy and persecute. Yeah. Right. And you shall again obey the voice of the Lord and keep all his commandments, which I command you this day. The Lord your God will make you abundantly prosperous in all the works of your hand, in the fruit of your body, and in the fruit of your cattle, and in the fruit of your ground. For the Lord will again take delight in prospering you, as he took delight in your fathers, if you obey the voice of the Lord your God and keep his commandments and his statutes, which are written in this book of the law, if you turn to the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. So he's already going to circumcise the heart so that you already like don't have the free will to choose. And then he's saying, I'll prosper you if you come and do what I'm saying. But there's one part in here that always Christians love to ignore. And that's verse 10. If you obey the voice of the Lord your God to keep his commandments and his statutes. People like to jump and say, oh, we only have to keep the 10 commandments. We only have to keep the... No, according to your book, and in the video I talked about today where I was saying that all believers of this book are hypocrites, it is because they will pick and choose what commandments and what statutes that they want to follow, that they want to maintain in their life. And it's really based on um, their culture. Because Christians in America, and depending on where in America, are going to follow a different commandments and statutes than Christians in Africa, than Christians in Spain, than Christians, in Zimbabwe, than Christians in, Angola, or Christians in Italy. They're all going to follow different commandments based on what their culture is. They're not going to follow just what the book says, not even slightly. But if they do that, and if they were to do that, then they would go to jail. They would go to jail. Because as soon as they start sacrificing all those animals, they're going to jail in most countries. They go into jail. So let's continue with it. Oh, this chapter is real short. For this command, which I command you this day, is not too hard for you, neither is it far off. It is not in heaven that you should say, who will go up for us? Who will go up for us to heaven and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it? Neither is it beyond the sea that you should say, who will go over the sea for us and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it? But the word is very near you. It is in your mouth and in your heart, that you can do it. So this God supposedly said he has put his word, his commands, his statute in your heart and in your mouth. Somebody was on YouTube earlier talking about, you ever been swallowed up? I'm sorry, it just made me think about it. This would have been a good time for EJ. I think it was EJ kept saying, have you ever been swallowed up? This would have been a time for you to say, have you ever been swallowed up? But think about that. And as far as the free will conversation, if this God has already, he's circumcised your heart, he's told you that if you don't believe in him, he's going to pretty much make your life a living hell. And now he's saying that I'm going to put, you don't need somebody to come from across the sea. You don't need anybody to come from heaven. I'm going to put these words in your mouth and in your heart. Now, there's an aspect of this. So he's controlling you. He's like, dance, monkey. Right? So he's controlling you. You don't have free will. That's one. Two, this is also a way, this being written here is something that most people don't realize because they don't study other cultures, that in other cultures, the stories have always been somebody went up into the heavens like Enoch and then came down and told them the words. Or in the stories of Quetzalcoatl, he came from the heavens and taught the Aztecs. Kukulkan came in from the heavens and taught the Mayans. Supposedly, in the Emerald Tablets, Thoth came and flew into the people of Kim coming from the heavens. There's a bunch of stories in the Mediterranean as well, with the Greek stories and the Roman stories and the Syrians and the Akkadians of Enki, Enlil, these different deities coming from the heavens and teaching the people about God, or coming from across the sea and teaching the people about God. There are stories of Asar leaving Egypt or Kim to go across the sea to teach people and bring them into civilization. So this is actually something to combat this idea, this motif that was in the Mediterranean mindset, a Mediterranean motif, that deities came from the heavens and deities came from the seas in order to teach you. My own ancestors, on my father's side, the Dogons, they thought that the Namu came from the sea to teach the people, right? So this is one of those lines of separating where this God is being different, that he's abiding within you, right? In your mouth, in your heart, so that you know what to do, right? So that you can do it, so that you can follow it. Now, also think about this. He's saying that now he's talking about these are the commandments which I command you. And he ends 14 with saying, so that you can do it. Meaning that if this God has circumcised your heart, if this God has put his words in your mouth, then you can do it. Because at this time frame, there was no thought process of a Messiah coming. Somebody need to come and save you. We need Jesus and all of that. They had a belief that they can accomplish it. And according to this words of this God, you as an individual person can follow his commandments and statutes. So it kind of counteracts the whole Messiah type idea. It contradicts the Messiah type stories and says that the people can follow all the commandments and all the statutes. Now, you'll never hear a Christian say that. You'll never hear them admit that. But this is why the Jewish people, they believe that all they got to do is follow the commandments. It's through their works of following the commandments, following the statutes, that they'll get to be with this guy for all eternity. But Christians will choose to ignore it. You know, I might make a small little separate video about this one tomorrow, but they'll choose to ignore this one. Right? Sheila made a good comment. Let me throw that out. I know the first words of it. Said the same God, the same book, just adding other books to enhance it. But how enhance it? But how is God different? Just different names, same God, Torah. The church skips whatever they want, right? And they do. They just skip whatever they want, and they just put the parts in that they like, the parts that fit their own thought process. So let's continue and finish out this chapter. So I have set before you this day life and good. Wait a minute. I have set before you this day life and good, death and evil. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day, by loving the Lord your God, by walking in his way, and by keeping his commandments and his statutes and his ordinances, then you shall live and multiply, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land which you are entering to take possession of it. So you got to follow the commands, the statutes, and his ordinances. But if your heart turns away and you will not hear, but are drawn away to worship other gods and serve them, I declare to you this day that you shall perish. You shall not live long in the land which you are going over the Jordan to enter and possess. I call the heaven and earth to witness against you this day that you have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Therefore, choose life, that you and your descendants may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying his voice and cleaving to him. For that means life to you and length of days, that you might dwell in the land which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, to be given to them. Right? Now, big old bug that was on my side of my face is now on my computer. Gotcha. So basically, if you choose to believe in me, I will prosper you. If you choose not to believe in me, I will curse you. And for some people like Eric, he's saying that that is your freedom of choice. That is not a choice. If this God was the actual true God, then there is no choice. And if this God was the actual true God, and this is supposedly occurring in and around 1200 BCE, then this God is saying that only this small group of people am I making this promise to. As far as all the people who were living in Africa at the time, people living in North America, South America, Central America, Australia, Southwest Asia, Asia, Europe, as far as all those people, to hell with them. I don't care about them. Oh, sorry, Eric. I misunderstood Eric. So he says, so basically gives you no choice, freedom of choice. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. I don't mind being wrong and corrected. Um, but it's not. It's no choice. He's like, to hell with all those people. They don't care about those people all over the world. Those people are meaningless. They're meaningless to this God. But people all over the world, people are running around America believing that these scriptures pertain to them. All right. How are these scriptures pertaining to you? When he's talking about you're going into this land that I'm giving you, what land did he give that the Europeans utilize this verse and chapter, other than the land that they took? What land is all these Black Americans all, that they're getting? Where's their land that they're getting because they believe in this? We've had ancestors believe in this for 400 years. They ain't got no land. This God didn't give them any land. I'm blowing a lot of smoke because there are a bunch of gnats around here, and they seem to like the smoke though. But they didn't get any land. Where's their land? Where's their prospering? How many people, whether we're talking about the people in Central America, people in the Caribbean, people in South America, the people of Africa, have believed in this book, and never did they get this land and this blessings? If anything, the only thing they've ever received is the curses from this deity. That's it, just the curses. No land, none of that, just straight curses. Yeah, the smoke should be, but these some gnat bugs out here, and they're attracted to this light, and they like, I don't care about the smoke. I am getting some of this light. I tried to turn the porch light on and hope that would make them come over there, but they seem to want to be over here. Been trying some different things. Let me see something real quick. Now I don't know if they're gonna go to my computer screen or they'll go to that light over there. Hopefully they'll go to that light over there, but my computer screen's kind of bright too. But that might minimize how many of these bugs because they get on my nerves. But I'm amazed at how many people believe in this book and they read these types of scriptures and they believe in these scriptures, right? I'm sorry. But they still don't get the blessings of these scriptures because they coming too close to me. So going over there where that brighter light is at. But they don't get the benefits of it. Mm-mm. All I've seen is people who were indoctrinated into this book, believing in these promises, sing songs about these promises, and all they ever get is the curse. Your parents, grandparents believed in this book, and then their towns got burnt down. You got people believing in this book today, and then their land gets taken from them through um, eminent domain and gentrification. Where's this protection? So I'm done reading. We've been through this. It's just a whole bunch of bullshit, a whole bunch of stuff that tells you that this God is making it where you do not have freedom of choice. Either love him or he's going to kill you and devastate you. That's the choice. Love him or be devastated. So that's your choice. You have no other choice other than that. Curses or blessings. Now it's interesting. China don't believe in this for the most part. They ain't getting no curses. North Korea don't believe in this. They ain't getting no curses. Japan don't believe in this. They ain't been getting no curses. You know, everybody has had their ups and downs. Your life is going to be based on the decisions you make. That's it. The decisions you make in life. That's where your blessings and your curses come from. You make good decisions, you're going to have blessings. You make bad decisions, you're going to be cursed. And those is coming because of what you decide, not from some deity. Not from some deity. So you're not going to find that in your Bible that says that your choices make your uh, blessings and curses. What you find that is in the reality of life, the realities of life. Uh, Example: I had warned somebody who bought a franchise of my popcorn shop and not to put it in a mall. And then about 3 years later, my dumbass put one in a mall because they were supposed to remodel the mall, and I want to be a part of this they're gonna re-gentrify this area but keep it black, right? And I wanted to be a part of it. So my dumbass went in that mall without really checking to see if these people were serious going to do all the remodeling that they was going to do. And I lost money. I lost a lot of money on that deal. That was my own fault. That was my own bad decision. Wasn't nobody else's decision. Just mine. Just my decision. Nobody forced me to do it. It was all just me. All just me. Anytime I put a business in an area and it didn't work out, or if it did work out, it was all me. The marketing, all me. Good or bad. Ain't nothing to do with some guy. Ain't had nothing to do with my belief. It's all me. Fred, how can you say you reap but that's a lie. Um you reap what you sow. Your God in Deuteronomy says that if you follow him and follow his commandments and statutes and ordinances, that he will bless you with all this fruitfulness of the land and fruitfulness of the cattle and all this kind of stuff. But then you're going to say you reap what you sow. Now that only makes sense if you presuppose you believe in this God, that all your reaping comes from this God and all your sowing comes from this God. But when you don't have a belief in this God, say like the Japanese, the Japanese sowed a lot after World War II and they reaped the benefits. They reaped the benefits of it tremendously. Uh, as a country, they had an ideal point. The European colonists who came to America, they sold a whole lot of slavery and a whole lot of massacring, and they reaped the benefits of it. And I'm not trying to say this is not a right or wrong for them. I mean, I believe it's wrong, but this is not a right or wrong. But they took advantage of their naval power, their higher technology, and they took advantage of people who were in a lesser technological standpoint, and they reaped the benefits of it. Was it your God, or was it their actions? Was it Genghis Khan's actions, or was it the God that Genghis Khan believed in? When the Dahomey defeated the kingdom of Wayuda and then sold them into slavery and made them their own slaves and reaped the benefits of that, was it their benefit? You see what I'm saying? That whole thing about this God determining who wins, who loses, who got the benefits, who don't, they're reaping and sowing. When you put it into what we would in today's morality say is a negative thing like slavery and conquest, then it's like, oh, well, that wasn't God. They were acting outside of God and all this stuff. But in Deuteronomy, they're talking about how they just they defeated the king of they defeated King Sion, they defeated King Og, and they took their land. And they're getting ready to go into this promised land. They're going to kill these people, all the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Jebusites. So through murder and mayhem and conquest, this God gives people benefits. And it is the peaceful people that keep getting screwed over. Think about that. Oftentimes, it is the peaceful person that gets screwed over and over again in life. And it is the people who follow these ideas that their God tells them to conquest people who thrive. Isn't that interesting? You got all these people, and I'm not trying to be political, but they're getting ready to vote for Trump, right? They voting for a man who they are calling the chosen one, the right side, the ultra right side, are calling the chosen one. And this man just got convicted of 34 counts of felony. The math ain't mathing on that. It's just not mathing at all. But they'll try to make it fit, y'all. They try to make it fit because it makes them feel better about their situation, right? It tries to make them feel better about their situation. And it's amazing because they will say that, well, God has a hand in all these things, but yet they cannot prove that their God has a hand in all these things, right? They can't. It's part of God's plan, but they can't prove that it's part of his plan. God works in mysterious ways, but he can't prove that it works in mysterious ways. We can literally prove cause and effect over and over and over again. We can prove cause and effect. That is what science and skepticism is about, is proving cause and effect. What is the causation that has all these people voting for Trump? Trump recognized something Lyndon Johnson said a long time ago. If you can convince the poorest white man that he is better than the wealthiest black man, he will vote for you every time. He will vote and he will usher in his own demise just to be better than, just to be made to feel better than the other guy that they're supposedly oppressing. And that was his message. That was it. It was around the way, but that was his message when he first ran. And it worked. It literally worked. And people still are following it. Still. Bill Clinton needed that black vote. So he started appearing on Arsenio Hall. He started and playing the saxophone because he wanted to be hip and cool. He started showing up at all the black churches because he knew coming out of Arkansas, he wasn't going to get the black vote nationwide. So he needs at least, I think it's like 14%, something like 14 to 20%. So he knew what appeals to make to black people to get black people to vote for him, to come out in large numbers and vote for him. And it worked. It worked. You can prove cause and effect in almost in 99% of the things that deal with your life. When you can't, you just need to look deeper. Now, the reason why I use politics, because politics are actually easy to prove. You can go back and look at all the campaign messaging. You can look at their activities. You can prove cause and effect. You know, in the same way. Okay, how about this? Since y'all don't like the politics, right? He admitted to smoking weed. In order for you to win the lottery, Mega Ball, Powerball, whatever you call it, Powerball, can you win it without playing the lottery? Every person who's ever won the lottery had to buy a ticket, right? Were they blessed by God, or did they have to go buy a ticket? Which one is most likely? Yes, we know, Aaron, the lottery is a tax on poor people. It is. But that is not the question that I ask. Can you win the lottery without a ticket being purchased? Hmm. I appreciate you, Gabby. 4 o'clock in the morning. Don't forget Ross Perot. I actually like Ross Perot. I like. I did like Ross Perot. If God is the I am, then yes. If God is not the I am, then no. Well, the answer is no. You cannot win the lottery without purchasing the ticket. The lottery commission is not going to walk up to your door, knock on it, and say, "Hey, we know you've never bought a ticket, but there's the 300 million Powerball, and you won." That's never going to happen. That's not going to happen. Cause and effect. Somebody got to buy a ticket, otherwise it doesn't work. Oh, you work for Ross Perot? Okay. Heel said the lottery to me is getting Kelly Rollins. You have to meet her and swoon her for that to happen. She ain't just gonna show up at your door and be like, "Here it is." Cause and effect is always in play. No matter what you do, whatever happens in your life, there is a causation. Whether it is a causation that you create, or is it a causation that somebody else creates and you are the effects of it. Now, unfortunately, most people are walking around here as the effects of things, not the causation of things. So, what we need to focus on is how to be the causation of our own lives instead of being the effects of our own lives. So that's what we need. That's where our focus needs to be. All this praying and hoping that God one day brings us this manna from heaven is not going to work. Hold on for a second, y'all. I can't hear you. Come. Oh no, it's fine. Thank you. So Angelina was asking me if I wanted to. That it's some bug zapper light. It don't do that, especially with all these brighter lights out here. But yeah, so this is why I talk about the Hermetic laws so often, because without the Hermetic laws and understanding those, you are just going to be the causation of somebody else's uh, effects. You're going to be the effects of somebody else's causation. You're going to be the effect of what somebody else mentally decided that they were going to create and manifest. And you may benefit from it, but you may not benefit from it. What is this? Kyle is saying, man, you're right, brother. They were preaching back in the 80s to not buy houses in what, not because Jesus was coming back. You know, I remember there were pastors back in the 80s who was doing that, saying stop worrying about buying houses, don't worry about jobs and all these sort of things, because Jesus is coming back soon, and he's coming back right now, and you don't need to worry about all these things in life. And people didn't. And here it is, 2024, and Jesus still ain't came back. Yeah, most of the people who play the lottery, it's a scam. I just do it for fun every now and then, but it's purely for fun. It's like, okay, I can, these $2 is just for fun. But when you allow your mind, oh, this TikTok is getting on my nerve. When you allow your mind to be subjugated by these religions and by these religions, then you are giving them power over you to determine what your life is going to be. And most often than not, they're trying to convince you to wait for some bountiful life in heaven later. Don't worry about, I used to hate when they used that part in where they referred to Solomon. Don't worry about the clothes on your back or the food that you're going to put in your mouth, because even the lily pads and the birds and more adorned, and Solomon's greatest wares, and so just don't even worry about that stuff. All the while, the people that's handling their business is taking advantage of all those things in life and getting life, and you sitting up here losing in life, just every day losing, every day just losing. Fred said, "All right, we're gonna have a little. We do y'all think I should let Fred get on here so he can debate me about Christ? Y'all think? Because to me, it's a waste of time. Honestly, I think it's a waste of time. You cannot debate somebody's belief. If a person's gonna believe something, then they're gonna believe it. And to me, if you want to believe something, go believe it. Go do you. Nobody's stopping you. Nobody's pressuring you. But if you're trying to debate some facts, if you're trying to debate some facts, if you got some facts, sure. But if you ain't got no facts, if all you're gonna do is start quoting Bible scriptures, it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of my time, and it's a waste of the people on here. So be more specific, Fred, about what you exactly want to debate, because I'm getting a mixture from the people here. I don't know. I ain't seen nothing else from Fred. I don't think it take that long to type. While he's doing that, if he's doing that, sir, you're just talking. I asked the man a simple question: what specifically about your Christ you want to talk about? Instead, he just come with some trivial bullshit. So I ain't got time for that. Can you school us on Serapis and why he looks so much like the Jesus character? Well, if you look at the so it is not so much that Serapis looks like Jesus as much as Caesarea Borgia's portrait looks more like Serapis. So Serapis was a Greco-Roman deity that was created in Egypt by Ptolemy the Fourth, was a merger of Zeus, Apis, and Ra. And so what the Greeks would do when they would go into conquering people is they would merge the cultures as much as they possibly can. Oh, you have Hermes. I mean, you have Thoth or Thothme. We have Hermes. They the same. You got Ra. We got Apollo. They the same. And matter of fact, Ra, Zeus, and Apollo, they all the same. So they would merge these deities together. So when Ptolemy the Fourth took over Egypt after Alexander the Greek died, uh, he just created Serapis as a way to unify the people and keep them under bondage. So your religion has been used quite often to be able to uh, control the people. And this was the Greeks' way of doing it. So Serapis was invented for that purpose. And then as Christianity started to develop over the first, second, third century, fourth century, and on up, the images of Jesus were likened to Serapis because uh, one, Serapis supposedly gave Vespasian power to heal a lame man, and heal a blind man. So he has some similar qualities to the Jesus story. And then um, it was also familiar to the European people. So the Caesarea Borgia picture is chosen because it reminds them of it. It looks like Serapis as well. Uh, what do you say? The Borgia cat is who you have to kill in a second. I don't play that game, but that's interesting. But yeah, so Serapis is that's all Serapis really is, you know, and it's just a means of control. And I always find it interesting that many Christians like to quote and say that Tacitus wrote about Jesus. He didn't write about Jesus. He wrote about people who believed in Jesus, right? But and they'll say that that's proof that Jesus existed. Well, Tacitus is the one who wrote about Vespasian doing these two miracles with the power or in the name of Serapis, and these miracles happen. But yet they won't accept that Serapis must exist if Jesus exists because it's the same criteria that you use to prove Jesus. So why not Serapis? This is funny to me. Okay, where are you getting all this information from, sir? And why is it not in books? If you go read Tacitus's writings, which you can with the internet, you can easily look it up. But if you read Tacitus' writings, then you will have that information about Tacitus and Vespasian and Serapis. I think I said that's where that came from, right? Did I misspeak? That's pretty much where I said it came from. You see, the problem with a lot of people today is that we're too ready to say, oh, you got to go read this person who's alive today book. You got to go read, and not, I like Bart Ehrman. Don't get me wrong, but you got to go read Bart Ehrman's book. If you're not saying it's from Ehrman or it's not from this writer or that writer, then where are you getting this information from? You can easily go to the source to which most of these writers are getting their information from. You can go and read Josephus's writings. It's not hidden. You can read Josephus's writings. You can read Tacitus' writings. You can read Origen's writings. You can read Jerome's writings. You can read Eusebius's writings. Um, You can go and read all these people's writings. All right. So, but, and y'all don't get mad at me, but the lazy part of us wants somebody to have went and collected all this data for us and put it in one book. But you have to be willing to go and research it down to the origins of these writings, right? Not just what some author wrote today and you want to take all their writings. You want to validate what they're saying. You know, like 17 years ago, I was a huge Zechariah Sitchin fan. But then as more and more information came out, I realized that Zechariah Sitchin got a lot of things wrong. So, because I went back to the source, I'm reading things that's from the source. Right heel. Serapis there's a statue of Serapis in the British Museum. The information is everywhere. You can find information everywhere. You can read archaeological papers. You can read PhD papers. Like researching the Cambridge theology school's library is filled with PhD papers, right? And then those PhD papers have to reference where their source come from, right? They have to reference where their source is coming from, and then you go back and you verify and identify that source, right? I get a lot of people who will tell me, Ron Wyatt, he proved this, he proved that. But then when you go and you research Ron Wyatt, you find out that there's no peer review, that he never did an archaeological dig, that he's never even sanctioned to do an archaeological dig, that the things surrounding his archaeological findings are all jacked up. So it's like, okay, you got a bunch of stuff that doesn't, the math don't math. So why are you accepting it? See, most people who believe in the Bible just believe the Exodus happened because the Bible says it happened, when there's zero archaeological proof that it ever happened, and there is zero, the probability of it happening is damn near zero. I want you to think about one aspect of the Exodus, right? According to the Exodus story, 2 million people crossed the Red Sea overnight, right? In one night, one freaking night. The shortest point of the Red Sea is 31 miles. I've done a Volksmarch. There's a thing called a Volksmarch in Germany where you recreate Patton's 100-mile march, right? And you do 25 miles a day. I did this when I was in the Marine Corps and in top shape, and that whooped my ass. You trying to tell me that a whole bunch of slaves, women and children, old people, young people, that they crossed 31 miles of jagged, or even if it was smooth, but muddy ass water, I mean land under the water, overnight? Come on now. Come on. That ain't happening. It's not going to happen. Yes, the Oxford Library is good. Uh, Oxford Theological School is good. Their library is good. So is Princeton and Harvard and Yale. Their theological studies library is good. Um, the University of Cairo, theirs is good. The only thing I don't like about the University of Cairo is that when it comes to information about Egypt, they censor the shit out of it. Tim, you're evil. I'm tired after 18 holes. Man, I've been wanting to go and play some golf like a champ. I'm gonna start next month. Next month I'm playing some golf. But that's the only thing I don't like about the University of Cairo's library is that they censor a lot of stuff that pertains to Egypt itself because they want to maintain the current history of Egypt. But you also got to be willing to read the counter argument. All right. You got to be able to read, get a cart. It's too hot. I always use a cart. My knees ain't built for walking 18 holes. But you also need to read the counter argument. Don't just read the argument that goes in your favor. Read the arguments against. That's what peer review is about. Peer review is where other people who are studied in that field validate whether or not the person who wrote whatever they wrote, if they got it right or if they got it wrong. Unfortunately, if you're reading made a commitment, a pledge that they're going to defend the Bible no matter what information they find. Right. So when I read apologetics, it is always with the lens that this person is forcing the narrative to fit the narrative that they already believe in. They didn't come to it with an open eye. Now you might get one or two here and there authors who will say, okay, this is some bullshit. This is, it wasn't the Red Sea, it was the Sea of Reeds. The Sea of Reeds have demonstrated that land can become dry because of a wind that comes across the Nile Delta. And they try to change it into that. The problem occurs with the fact that there's no other evidence of them being in Egypt. And then the facts that I'm sorry, the moon is real cool right now up there with the sky. The other part, the facts that these were Canaanite people who were in Israel, what we modern day Israel, and after the Bronze Age collapse, and during the Bronze Age, right before the Bronze Age collapse, when the Phoenicians defeated the Egyptians, Egypt lost its control of that vassal state, that area as a vassal state. So these are just people who are carving out their own territories. So they are coming out of Egypt is really just Egypt not controlling the Levant anymore. And the Bronze Age collapse happened, where people became separated again and regressed in society. Oh, I meant to hit this one. Concrete thinking has a landing point. Critical thinking takes all points to lead to an open landing point. Exactly. When I read and I study, I go there without a determined landing point. Yeah, this is one thing I can't stand about Cairo, about the people in charge of Egyptian antiquities and their history, is they won't allow for mummies to be tested. Um, they want to keep, they want Egypt to be Arab. They don't want, they try to exclude the Nubian. Hell, they even try to exclude the Caucasian. If they had it their way, there will be no Greek or Roman blood in those in important people of Egypt. I don't know if Fred is talking to me or you're talking to somebody else. He might be talking to Eric. But how many books do I need to read to find knowledge? There's no number. I mean, I know I've read over 300 books in my life, and I've read hundreds of PhD papers and uh, archaeological papers. There's no set number. It's just, let's say you were researching Taran Tepe right now, which I'm pissed off that they're really not excavating Taran Tepe like they should. They've given it over to a company that is all about tourism. But when you go and you study Taran Tepe, I mean, Gobekli Tepe is what they gave over to the tourist company. But when you study Gobekli Tepe, you got about, over these last 20 years, you got about 30, 40 archaeological papers that you can read up on, and 90% of them are saying pretty much the same thing. So that's basically what we know about Gobekli Tepe. We know they've been dated to around 9,000 to 11,000 BCE. We know that they carved these monoliths, that they created these societies. We don't know why they buried it the way they did. Um, we know that they had their own zodiacs with the stars, so we know they was either worshiping the stars or identified constellations. You know, we're learning a lot about them. Who knows what we'll know about them in the next 20 years? So it's not a lot of there's no set number. It's, you know, what argument is most likely correct. I don't know who David Wilcox is. It sounds familiar, Tim. It sounds familiar, but I can't think of who that is. In other words, Matthew 7:7, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall open up to me, sir. You just showed me this Bible verse is true. Shaking my head, talking to you. Uh, there are certain parts of the Bible that does have good wisdom. If you followed me or listened to me long enough, then you will hear me say that. Now, I prefer the version in the Gospel of Thomas. That version, I think is better. You know, where it says, "Seek and you shall find." But when you find, you will be disturbed. After you are disturbed, you will marvel and then reign over all. So it's similar, but a little bit different because it's speaking more towards when you seek and you find. Oftentimes, you will be disturbed because it may go counter to what you have been conditioned to believe or conditioned to think that you know. But once you get past that point of being disturbed and recognize that truth is just going to be truth, whether it fits your paradigm or not, then you will marvel at this truth, and then you will reign over all your brain, your emotions. You will reign, not reigning over other people, but you will reign over yourself, your mental condition, your emotional condition. Because many people can't get past the disturbed part, which is why they stay stuck. So I understand the Matthew 7, the what is it, Mark 7? I understand Matthew 7, but I like Gospel Thomas version better. Marcus said, "Do you think our school system should teach more critical thinking, thinking skills, or courses? More critical thinking, more critical thinking." Let me tell you, when I got to the Marine Corps, and this also happened to me when I went to college for IT. One of the things that's what was it, Sergeant Major Markham? No, it wasn't Markham. It was a different Sergeant Major. I can't think of his name. I won a meritorious mass because of one thing that happened. One thing that happened. He asked everybody, "What's his license plate number?" And nobody knew. So you're in uniform, they're inspecting you, and they ask you questions. Usually it's military questions. He said, "What's my license plate?" And people was like, "I don't know. I don't know. I don't know." When he got to me, I said, "I don't know, but I'll find out." So then after we finished that inspection and we had another inspection in a different uniform, I went outside, found his car, which was easy because he had a special parking spot. And when he came up to me, I told him what his license plate was. I won that meritorious mass because he said that demonstrated an initiative and a willingness to go and find out the information that you need. Right? Critical thinking is something that should be taught to everyone, because most people just answer the question like a damn zombie, you know. Oh, Matthew 7:7. Yes, it's true. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be answered. Because you're not going to find any information if you're not seeking it. A door will not be open to you if you're not seeking it. But as I said, Gospel of Thomas says the same thing. Let me give you another aspect of a culture that teaches pretty much the same thing. Do y'all know what serendipity means? I want y'all to tell me what serendipity means. If they taught critical thinking, nobody would join the police force or the military. They want people stupid and control them. Mostly, but your leaders, you want leadership that does critically think. You do want your leadership to critically think. Yes, and most Christians refuse to read the Gospel of Thomas. Does anybody know what serendipity means? I don't believe in a part of the Bible. I'm just saying that certain Bible wisdom is valid. There's no part that I believe in. This part I don't. You know, some of the historic, okay, Jerusalem existed. I believe that part of the Bible. When they talk about Jerusalem, sure. When they talk about the Romans, the Romans existed, sure. Do y'all not know what serendipity means? I'm about to get mad at y'all. No, no. Ask the question who, what, when, where, why, and sometimes how will solve a lot of your great statement. Asking who, what, when, where, why, and how is a great way of studying. All right. Thank you, Vicky. Serendipity, something that happens by chance. Thank you for the answer, Vicky. Um, serendipity, to surrender and pity. No. uh, Angelina, she probably cheated and Googled it. Nah, just playing. The occurrence and development of events by chance. No. Seven, great things happen by chance. No. The phenomenon of finding valuable things. No. That is not what serendipity comes from. That is not what it actually means. All right. Most of y'all are familiar with the country Sri Lanka, right? All right. Y'all familiar with the country Sri Lanka? All right. So if you don't, go look it up on the map. It's a beautiful country. All right. So in Sri Lanka, they had a story that they used to tell. So you had three princes. Well, so they had it in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka in ancient times was called Serendip. That was the name of the original name of the country. Yes, the dictionary is wrong. Was Serendip. Okay. There were three princes of Serendip. Their father, before he would choose which one of them would become king, sent them out to meet the people. Well, on their journey, when they met people, it tells a journey of a man, a story of a man who was uh, next to a river, and he had built a little tavern and a boat, and he was trying to fish, but he needed more material to be able to fish, but he had prepared himself. So when the princes saw this man and he was prepared, they gave him what was needed for him to be able to become a great fisherman in that village. They met another person who was just standing at had some was inherited some land, but just letting the weeds and everything just grow and grow and grow over the fields and was complaining that he didn't have the tools and necessary, but he had a donkey, he had a plow, but he didn't have seed. That's what it was. He didn't have seed. So he just sat there and let the land go to waste, right? So they didn't give him shit. So what these three in all the stories, what these three princes did was in whenever they met someone who was prepared for an opportunity, then they provided what was necessary for them to fulfill what they had prepared themselves for. So serendipity is actually when you hear people say when preparation meets opportunity, success is when preparation meets opportunity. They have mangled that from serendipity. Serendipity is when preparation meets opportunity. It is not luck. It is not chance. It is you preparing yourself, and then the right things come around you because you've been preparing yourself for it, and then bam, your opportunity comes. That's the origin of the concept of serendipity. But of course, just like many things through history, we change the narrative. I like to use awfully lot, an awful lot. Awful used to mean full of awe, and it was usually used towards something great, something good. But because it kept being related to storms that destroyed shit, awful gained a negative connotation. I think like in the 1800s is when awful gained a negative connotation. And so now today, if somebody said that was awful, they mean something negative, right? But serendipity is how what happened when opportunity meets success. So if you're not prepared for something and then the opportunity comes, you can't take advantage of it. So when I teach hermetics, what I talk about is that you can't just have it in your mind mentally. I want to buy a house. I want to buy a house. I want to buy a house. Right? When the interest rate drop, but you haven't went out and fixed your credit, you haven't saved up some money to put a down payment down. Uh, you haven't got your debt to income ratio to where you will be able to purchase this house, and the mortgage keep you at a 40% low debt to income ratio. You're not going to get that house because you weren't prepared. You wasn't taking the time now to prepare yourself for it. Because in the way that most people think serendipity happens is how the damn housing market crash happened. All those people running around thinking that it was some great thing of them being able to get those houses with those what do you call it? It was the statement, income statement, income statement loans and them LIBOR loans and interest only loans. They thought that they was being blessed. They thought that they was getting serendipity. No, your ass got tricked. You got tricked like a champ. Bugs all on my arm. That's what happened. But serendipity was during that time frame, all those investors who was watching and saw that the market was in a bubble, and they bet against the housing market. All those investors who saw everybody buying these houses and knew they weren't going to be able to keep them, and was hoarding cash, waiting for the bubble to burst, and then went out there and bought all those properties that was being foreclosed on. They were experiencing serendipity. The ones who bought the houses were not experiencing serendipity. Kyle, I'm somewhat in agreement with you. I think they wanted that crash to happen as well. And yes, the English language is always playing around with stuff. It's always language is always changing. All business is a pyramid. You only get schemed if you don't know how to play the game. But I do. But those pyramid schemes, I don't ever do them. Please don't ever do them. Right now during the summertime, I usually go live in or around this 7 o'clock, 7:30, somewhere between 7 and 7:30. Today was 7:45. Marcus. So basically, the original definition of serendipity is when you are prepared for a circumstance and opportunity comes your way. Yes, because here's the thing, in the reality of life, and when you are vibrating on the scale on the pole in the direction of what you have manifested mentally, but you are being the causation of your vibration, the right opportunities just comes your way. It comes your way because you're putting yourself in that place to have it. You're putting yourself in that place to have it. Um, when I first became a personal trainer, and after a couple of years, I wanted a gym because all that running around the clients was, I was making six figures, but it was a lot of work, right? So I got with one of my clients who was he was a businessman, and he helped me. I need to write a business plan. Can you help me? He helped me to write a business plan. It took me, I mean, I went through the process for almost a year. During that year, I understood what my credit needed to be in order to get a business started. I knew what my debt to income ratio would needed to be, and I also understood how much skin I need to have in the game. So over that year, I saved some. I didn't get enough of the skin in the game, but I saved some of the skin in the game. I got my credit to where it needed to be. I did everything that I was moving in that direction. And after a year of him watching me do this, he finally said, "I'm gonna back you in this. I will provide the amount of money that you're missing, and I will provide the liquidity that you need to get this because banks don't give loans to gyms unless you're already successful." I learned that the hard way. I learned that while dealing with the banks, that restaurants and gyms are two things that they like hell no. So I had been preparing myself all that time, moving in that right direction. And then when uh, Tom's Tom saw the effort that I was putting in, he was willing to invest. Serendipity. Why doesn't the dictionary say that? Because the dictionary is going to give it to you how most people think about it today. Dictionary is not going to give you the history of something. I will deal with you in Yeshua name. Well, you should have said Yashu, not Yeshua. It wouldn't have had the A at the end. He said, "I'm camping outside of Kelly Rowland's house to experience some serendipity. You might experience some jail time. You're going to experience some jail time with that one, buddy." What's your question concerning transgender? Because I have different opinions about transgender depending upon what the conversation is about. Yeshu, yep. But yeah, that's why it's important to understand where words came from. I think we would be better off if we understood serendipity truly instead of what we've been kind of force fed or what we've gotten used to. Is that Juani? Am I saying that right? Juani said, "Don't do it. It's a trap." Nah, I can't be trapped, man. You're not going to be able to trap me. You just found it a week ago. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe and like and share the channel. Fred, this is my case against you, sir. Because you have no proof or evidence or foundation of your topics, you just do a lot of talking with no proof or evidence behind you. You ever heard of this thought process that the lack of proof is proof? If somebody makes a statement of fact, but then there's no proof of evidence of that fact, then and there's actually proof that goes against that fact, that's proof, my guy. Show me proof of the Exodus. Show me proof of the flood. Show me proof of Jesus. Show me proof of any of those things. But what I can show you is proof that Josephus wrote about 4 different Jesuses, but never wrote about the actual Yahshua that y'all talk about. That the Flaviana Testimonium is a forgery. What are you talking about? Tacitus wrote about Serapis, told you where it came from. You claim that I don't show any proof, but yet you just don't like what I tell you. You just don't like the proof I give you. You just don't like what I tell you, and that's fine. Melchizedek, I did a video based on your comment. Don't take it as a negative for me fussing at you on that comment. But I had some agreement and disagreement on it, which is one of the reasons why I'm on the path now. People in the Christian circles often question me why I started questioning some of the things in the Bible. I was ashamed for trying to find the authenticity for what I was supposed to believe in. If I am going to dedicate my life to something and this is supposed to be beneficial to my entire life, then I require actual proof and real understanding. Exactly. And Melchizedek, on the video where I answered one of your questions, your statement or replied to your statement, I said you might be Hebrew Israelite. I wasn't sure. If you're not, please forgive me for saying that you might be a Hebrew Israelite. I just based that on the fact that you call yourself Melchizedek and nothing else. But it was the one where I said all believers of the Bible are hypocrites. So definitely check that one out because it answers your question. I'm on. Angelina is a Celtics fan. I'm live on TikTok with my phone, and YouTube and Facebook is on my laptop with StreamYard. Ah, this is the cockiness of the so-called Christians. When someone don't believe what you say, didn't Christ tell you to go on and dust off your shoes? Then why are you continuing? This is why I constantly say Christians are missing it. Yeah, not only dust off your shoes, but remember when he went and he supposedly cast out a legion of demons out of the dude chained to a rock. The people was like, okay, well, we appreciate that, but can you carry your ass home? And he left. He left. When he went back home to Nazareth, they was like, boy, you Joseph's son. And he just left. I don't know why they feel like they got to convince us or me. And then they never come with anything other than their verses. Or they come with what Eric is saying, that I will deal with you in the name of blah, 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 blah. It's emotions, man. It's emotions. Here's the thing, Fred. Sir, I am a Christian. I am a Christian. Bring one for being one for 38 years, and we'll keep debating guys like you who have no proof or evidence, sir. You're not debating. Here's a debate. point, counterpoint. Both points based on some type of evidence or logic. You offer no counterpoint based in evidence or logic, so therefore you're not debating. You're just making statements of faith. And that's fine. But it's just statements of faith. And no, sir, it is not that I believe Matthew 7:7, and that means I'm living a contradiction of life. Does the Bible have some good wisdom in it? It does. But just because the Bible has some good wisdom doesn't mean I follow the Bible, that I believe in its tenets. The Bible, let me tell you something in business I get from the Bible. Ecclesiastes, don't know where it's at, but Ecclesiastes, it says, do many businesses, for you know not which one will be successful. That's good wisdom. What do people run around saying today? Multiple streams of income. That's good wisdom. But is that wisdom only some wisdom that you can find in the Bible? No, it's not. You can find that wisdom in all kind of other places. I can find that wisdom in the Kemetic society. I can find that wisdom all over the place. But that doesn't mean I also worship the Kemetics or I worship anybody else. Just because your book has some good little pieces of wisdom doesn't mean I worship your book. There's some good wisdom in communism. There's some good wisdom in socialism. There's some good wisdom in capitalism. I don't worship neither one of them. I don't believe wholeheartedly in neither one of them, put it that way. There's some good wisdom that came out of Europe, that came out of Africa, that came out of the Americas. That don't mean that I am just focusing on the one. I will accept good wisdom no matter where it comes from. And that's what you can't seem to grasp, is that accepting good wisdom is just accepting good wisdom. Because I like the wisdom of Plato's cave, does that mean that I follow everything Plato says? There's some good wisdom in Marcus Aurelius' book, the Emperor's Guidebook. Does that mean I follow everything that Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism? Does that mean make me a Stoic? No. There's good wisdom in some parts of it. And I just explained all that, and this joker's gonna still ask me what part is good wisdom. Anyway, ooh, that was a big one, hit my ear. What's the Book of Buddha? A book on economics. What is that one? I tell you what's a good book of economics. The richest man in Babylon. That's a good economic book. If I ever recommended an economic book to anybody, it is always The Richest Man in Babylon. I'm gonna post this up, but Gregory, don't write in caps, my guy. Writing in caps is too hard to read. And I think the normal mentality of that is that you're yelling, but it's too hard to read when you write in caps. But yes, I went through the whole understanding of the different translations and transliterations of the name and where all this mess comes from. But don't do the all caps. Yep. You can get wisdom from pretty much any book. And yeah, during his Christopher said, during my study of Buddhism, there are no recorded doctrine, just passed down wisdom from the previous leader. And actually, I think the eightfold path it's the eightfold path, right? Yeah, the eightfold path has some good stuff to it. Now, that whole thing about getting rid of desire, but if you have the desire to get rid of desire, then you still have desire. So there's a little bit. I don't agree with all of it, but the eightfold path is some good wisdom. But I'm not Buddhist. I just rub Buddha's belly before I jump in the pool. You know that fat Buddha is not the original Buddha, right? The fat Buddha is a different Buddha that came later. The skinny Buddha is the actual Siddhartha Gautama. Gabby, you better go to sleep. Go to sleep. Um, oh, that was at somebody else. Um, Buddha wasn't he okay. At first, Buddha Siddhartha was a um, ascetic, which means that he believed in drinking and eating the least amount of food that through denial of pretty much sustaining of life through denial is how you come to enlightenment. But it was actually him sitting under the Bodhi tree looking all emaciated that a little girl offered him some food is when he had his epiphany under the Bodhi tree. Uh, but then he became a great picture of health. But he went through the bullshit first of being an ascetic. I don't see how anybody can be an ascetic. I've seen some of them jokers, and that's like hell no. Tim Tim said he liked the fat one, the happy smiley Buddha. Um, this is actually a very good question, Tommy. What is a coach? Please explain what your message is. Is you have a message? Wait a minute. Your message is you have a message. Are you speaking from your own understanding? What validates your understanding? Okay, so a coach is pretty much somebody who just helps somebody else to bring out the best parts of them through different pathways that may be best suited for that person to achieve whatever goal they have desire to achieve. In this instance, I coach people on deconstructing, but in other instances, I coach people in other aspects of life by utilizing pathways that I can figure that works best for them. So, like if you and I was doing a coaching session, I there for those who've done coaching sessions with me can validate this. I have a huge onboarding process which those who are subscribers, all you subscribers and members, no, subscription holders and members, the onboarding video, most of y'all have not looked at it and followed through on it, just to throw that out there. But in that onboarding, I discover your life path, how your life path has went. So let me not just say your life path because that goes to that other shit, but how your life path has went through your own personal life path. I then help people to develop into whatever their goals are, and first even understanding what their goals are, and then how to get there. So some of it is through my own, all of it is through my own understanding, but it's my understanding of your life path, and then understanding the study of multiple situations where people have been able to achieve success in the same way that the person is looking to achieve success. Now, beyond that, what validates is the fact that it's been successful in other people's lives who coached other people, and it's been successful in my life, and it's been successful in my client's life. For instance, when I was a personal trainer, I couldn't train everybody the same way. I had to find out about their life, and then I trained them according to how their life was, and then help them to get the results that they desired. Help some of them to realize that some of the results that they desire was like that shit ain't happening, but and for them to come to that understanding that it's just not going to happen. But then to get them to whatever their desires are, to whatever their goal was, in a pathway that gets them there. But yes, everything is to your understanding. There is no such thing as leaning on someone else's understanding to the degree of that is all that there is. Somebody has to convince you that their understanding is the correct understanding for you to then make their understanding your understanding, so it still becomes your understanding. Yeah. Oh, Libby Lou, you just subscribed. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. A little self promotion here. Self promotion. Self. And Texas Goddess has been a very uh, good student, uh, making her life better, and that's what it's all about. Yeah. No, she's not a mod. She's a subscriber. Um, I just subscribed a little while ago. His views on reality versus religion really lined up with how I feel. Cool. Glad to be here. But I mean, really, that's my coaching sessions is not about me. It's really not. It's about helping people to get the best out of their life that they possibly can. There's no reason for us to suffer as much as we do suffer. Some things are a little bit beyond our control. Most things in our lives are within our control. Almost everything in our lives, the perspective we have on it is definitely within our control. So if I had a person who was saying that I don't like, let's say Fred said he wanted me to coach him into becoming a better Christian, right? Knowing my thought, who I am, my thought process. But here's the rub. If I took Fred on as a client, I would not teach Fred anything to try to convince him to not be a Christian, because that's not his goal. His goal is to be a better Christian. So I would utilize as much of the Bible that I can be truthful towards, to help him be a better Christian, right? And that's all I would do. Now, I know that that is what I would do because it's something that I have done, right? I've had clients who wanted to be a better Christian with them knowing my stance on Christianity. And with me talking to them over and over, are you sure you want me as a coach? Like, are you sure? And then I, like they say, I cherry pick the shit out of the Bible for the parts that are make them good people, that would make them better at living a life as close to what the Bible says that is of a higher morality than what people did back in the day, right? It still has its slavery, it still has its genocide, it still has all these other jacked up ass things. But I would, the love your neighbor part, the count your cost, the and I would never teach the love your enemy shit. I just can't do that because that's just not true to myself, but the husbands love your wife, as you love yourself, be of good rapport, um, raise your kids right, don't cause your kids to go against you, those kinds, be in good health, that stuff, sure. I understand what you're saying, Casey, and that was the that Casey Casey said, but you wouldn't be making them a better Christian by cherry picking it. What I used the think about it like this: I made them a better esoteric Christian because most of the stuff in the Bible I could not use. It is unusable, just unusable. Right. Uh, Not even Jesus loved his enemies, if he was being completely honest, because he sure called that, what was she, a Canaanite woman, called her a dog, and all her people are dogs. Thank you for answering. Did you or do you have a coach? There has been times in my life where did have a coach, so to speak. Going to show my age a little bit, but I used to pen pal with a gentleman who was one of the curators at the Tel Aviv Museum. There was an architect who's now passed on. I used to pen pal with him. And for those youngins on here who don't know what pen paling is, that means that you write letters to each other and put them in the mail, because we didn't have the internet back then. But I've had those. And then I've had peers. Like one of my most recent peers that some of you guys may know would be Kevin Wesley. Kevin Wesley was a peer to me for, well, still to this day, he's still a peer. We still talk. So I have peers now. I don't necessarily have a coach or a mentor or anything like that. When did Moses write Deuteronomy? If he was 200 years old when he was reading from if he was 200 years old, then we are reading from an Alzheimer patient. Moses actually didn't write Deuteronomy. That's the thing about that one. Moses didn't write it. Deuteronomy was written hundreds of years after Moses would have existed, and it was written over a period of a couple of hundred years, from the time frame of Hezekiah in the 800, 700 BCE, all the way through the Babylonian captivity. Deuteronomy was being written and edited. Appreciate that, Christopher. I try not to be disrespectful to people's beliefs, because I know how important it is to some people. Uh, what is Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 2? Like, I don't memorize those things anymore. Yeah, you need to go to sleep, Gabby. It's 5 o'clock in the morning in Kenya. Go to bed. Go to bed. It's 2 o'clock. This man's still awake. I don't know if it's a man or a woman because I ain't got my glasses, so I can't see the picture. But well, I'd have my glasses, but yeah. Uh, Juanine, this is something that when I was talking about the military, when I learned about critical thinking, this is something that one of my professors in college, I told him I had to tell him the truth that I was using this forum to find information that I needed to pass his class. And he said to me, the fact that he said, you ain't got to memorize this stuff. As long as you know where to go find the information, that's all that matters. And I have a pretty good memory. I can remember a whole bunch of dates, times, places, these sorts of things. But I got an A in his class because I hated that particular class. I didn't want to take it, but I told him at the end of the class, it was in my computer training class. I told him I never learned how to write DBA code. I just knew where to go get where I could go and have other people write it for me, because I never wanted to do that kind. I knew I wasn't ever going to do that kind of work. Oh, so a bastard shall not enter the congregation of the Lord even to the 10th generation. Right. Yeah, it's like, and you have to understand when they talk about the correlation of them saying that the congregation is also entering heaven. So it was like in the New Testament translation or transliteration of that, it would be a bastard would never go to heaven. And I remember growing up in the 70s, when I was a small kid, that was one of the things that I had a problem with. Um, when different pastors would quote that, and they would be like, a bastard would never enter into the congregation. And here I am, like, my mom and dad never got married, and I was like, so that means that I would never enter the congregation. I shouldn't even be inside this church. And then I was thinking, like, oh shit, that means I'm not going to go to heaven. So I really was like disturbed by that verse when I was a kid, you know. But the more I came out of this religion, the more I realized that none of that actually matters to me. But it disturbed me for a long time when I was a believer. Interesting. So you say the Babylonians stole our spiritual system and created religion. Why? Help me to understand that, because the Babylonian system of belief came from the Assyrians, which then came from the Akkadians, which came from the Sumerians. So help me to understand that, because their belief in Marduk and Baal. Now, I do understand how Marduk was also worshipped in Egypt as Ra for a while. So there's some crossover between the Kemetic East African teachings and the Levant teaching, the Mesopotamian teachings. So there is some crossover, but I look at that more like how Hellenization happened, where people saw that they had similar gods and they just merged them, together. Yep, coding is boring as hell. Right. That's proof that sins of the father falls on his descendants. But then later on, they said that the sins of the father no longer falls on it. So it's like falls on the descendant. So they changed it up. But then, and they say that if you get cursed by this, you're gonna get cursed for 50, 11 different generations. This guy goes back and forth, and it's all based on that. Actually, that type of back and forth helps to identify when some of this book has been written and when it wasn't, you know because there's a different writing style during the different captivities that these people were going under, whether it's through the Assyrians or through the Babylonians or the Greeks or the Romans. And the imperial religion was still valid through the monarchies of every country that had a monarchy, because every country that had a monarchy, in through their religion, they believed that they were appointed by their god. When I did the video about the Igbo religion not the Igbo people not being Jews, Hebrews, their king, whose name I cannot remember right now, the one of the earliest king, the oldest king that we know about from them, he determined that Chechua, he came from Chechua, and Chechua made him king. Chechua would be the same as in Yoruba as Olorun, but he's a direct descendant and came down from Chechua. So these monarchs love to create this. Yeah, and we talked about Serapis earlier, um, how Serapis was a combination of Greek and Kemetic gods. How long is a generation? It depends. When you're reading certain parts of history, a generation is 40 years. In more recent histories of the last few few centuries, a generation is only 20 years. In today's world, we recognize a generation as being 20 years, but in most cases, back in the day, a generation was 40 years. So it that's why a lot of things there's a clarity of is not the questions can you can ask a question, but it could be too general. Uh, So like, let's say you was Google searching that, you probably get a decent answer that explains both sides if you just said how long is a generation. But if you were more specific, how long was a generation in the Levant, in and around the 9th century BCE. Then you'll get a more defined answer. You can also then, if you scroll far enough or situate the question right enough, you might get some PhD paperwork on it or some archaeological paperwork on it that will then give you even more information, concerning a question. So when you're researching, you want to be as concise as possible. Have you ever seen Terrence Howard's video about 1 times 1 equals 1? I've seen parts of this video. It's long as shit. Um, I've seen parts of his interview. I did like the part on the tree of life, the flower of life. I found that part to be interesting. Um, but his 1 times 1 equals 1. I get what you're saying. If you got $1 and you times that dollar by one more dollar, then you can't say that you have $1. You should have $2. I get it. And you got $2 and you times it by one by adding. It's like a combination of multiplication and adding together to create a different number. But and even as a youth, I had a problem with zero. 1 times 0 equals 0. 2 times 0 equals 0. If I have 2 of something, and simply because I multiplied it by nothing, because 0 is relatively new mathematically, but multiply it by 0, then you have, all of a sudden you have nothing. But I still got the 2 somethings. So how do I get to the 0 of nothing? I've always had a problem with that. I still haven't fully fleshed it out, but I've always had a problem with that thought process. I don't know. I just have to wait and see. And I'm not super mathematically inclined like that. So it's one of those things like, let me see what a bunch of real mathematicians, not that he's not a smart guy, he is a smart guy, but let me see what some other mathematicians come up with and their thought process. But I do think that 1 times 0 is interesting and 1 times 1 is interesting. Uh, how that pans out, I don't know. I don't know. Now, I did see, but I didn't listen to it. I know Neil deGrasse Tyson talked about him, so I wanted to see that part. I'm going to watch his response, and that's how research is done. You hear somebody make a claim, then you go and let peers see what peers come back and say. But I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. I've always thought it was interesting how the flower of life pattern shows up in most cultures around the world. So is there something to it? And the Fibonacci spiral shows up all over the world. Now, the thing about it is you see both of them in nature, though. So since we see both of them in nature, it's not crazy that they all show up. Did the ancients figure it out? Can't say they did or didn't, because there's no demonstration of that. But there is something to that pattern, the Fibonacci spiral and the flower of life pattern. Christopher said, Coach, I didn't know that the God of the Old Testament had a divine counsel. Can you speak more about it? You ain't never read the story of Job or Genesis. The fact that he says Elohim in Genesis is gods and goddesses or divine counsel. A lot of Christians like to say he's talking about the 3 in 1, but it's not. That wouldn't have been the way that it would have been understood by the people back in the day who actually wrote it. Um, the Job aspect of it is a divine counsel. This guy's divine counsel is pretty much um, the pantheons of any other deity. When you understand that the Hebrew people came from the Canaanite people, and those Canaanite people had a pantheon, and even when the Hebrew people first separated, they still maintain a certain aspects of that pantheon, whereas Yahweh initially was the sun, a storm god, the son of El and Asherah. and El and Asherah was their mother. But then they changed their god to become the king god. So Yahweh then becomes El, still married to Asherah. Then El and Yahweh gets, well, that's when El and Yahweh gets combined together, and he's married to Asherah. But then they wanted to separate themselves even more to say that their God was always, it was eternal and didn't have sex like all the other people's gods, because they want to create more separation. And so their God then becomes, Elyon or El, just El, or just Yahweh Jehovah. And Asherah, his wife, becomes a pole. Then he starts to have angels, Gabriel, Michael, these angels, which is still part of the pantheon, because in every pantheon, kind of like with Chuetchu or Oleron, they or Brahma, they are the god, but then they have smaller divine beings that go and handle business for them. And that's all a pantheon really is a main god with a bunch of smaller gods, to, or angels in this case, to go and handle their business. But yeah, he had a pantheon. Nice big old long one here. By the way, Coach, what is your view when it comes to music? I believe that one of the reasons why this planet is so much a lower vibration is because the sound waves that come from the music being played. I play instruments myself, and so my perspective on it is different than most. But I grew up listening to jazz, funk, gospel. When I listen to Earth, Wind, and Fire, Take Six, or James Brown, I get true inspirations. What is your opinion? Music is part of understanding vibration, because to understand vibration, you must understand frequency. This is why all the ancient schools in all the ancient schools, yeah, you learn geometry and all these other things, but you also had to learn music, because music was part, understanding the scale of music and frequencies was part of understanding life itself. We know that the earth vibrates at 432 when it's healthy, and 528 when it needs to be healed, when it's going through a healing process. So if there's like a forest fire that happens in an area, that area begins to vibrate at 528 or 532. I can't, 532, I think, or 528, and then 532 when it's actually healthy. So there is something to frequency in music, and when music is played at a certain vibration, it creates certain energetic patterns within people and everything. Um, what's his name? Yamamoto demonstrated how frequency and by musical scale and frequency and can change uh, the patterns in water, change the patterns in cells, change the patterns in rice. And there's also a frequency in how we speak to one another. When you speak harshly, then that's a disturbing vibration, a disturbing frequency. And so this is why people yelling at someone, why you feel the way you feel, because of the frequency that's coming at you. It is not necessarily about the yelling, the loudness. It's the frequency that the person is emitting that creates your disturbance, right? And that's just a part of nature. All of nature works on a frequency, works on energy. Energy is frequency, right? So you want to get, this is why when I go to sleep, I sleep to different frequencies depending upon what I'm trying to do. Like, so I worked out last night. So I played, what did I play? I think I played I played a 528 last night. Um, when I'm writing or I'm trying to do something inspirational, then I find I'll listen to a different frequency. So it's different frequencies that you listen to for different aspects of life. But everything vibrates. Nothing stands still. Um, and figuring out the frequency that something vibrates is how we can uh, understand how. That's one of the ways we will understand the universe itself. What was his name? Tesla. That's one of the things that Tesla talk about. If you want to understand the universe, then you have to understand energy, vibration, and frequency. I mean, think about when a singer sings. If they sing at a certain frequency, the glass will shatter. Uh, Actually, the part about Terrence Howard, the only real part that I'm concerned with, honestly, is the part where he was talking about him and another person or a group of people are working on utilizing frequency, kind of like Dr. Royal Rife did, in order to cure people of ailments, or rebuild structures within a person's body, rebuild cells and that sort of thing. Because we know each one of our cells vibrate at different frequencies depending upon what cells we're dealing with. And if we can somehow, what Dr. Royal Rife information that we have about him suggested is that he created a machine that when he pinpointed the certain vibrations for cancer cells, those cells they pretty much exploded and died, and the people were cancer free. He did it first. They experimented on animals, and then they experimented on people, and I think it's like 16 or 18 people were cured. But then, of course, the AMA destroyed all his information and bankrupted him, and his business partner, they bankrupted him and jailed him, and then he died mysteriously. They always seem to die mysteriously. Now, if you see somebody out there selling a Royal Rife machine, it's most likely fraudulent, and you'll probably do harm to yourself. So don't just go out there and start, oh, this person's selling a Royal Rife machine. No one knows how he made that machine, right? The AMA made sure they got rid of it. And it was a crooked ass dude. I can't remember the guy's name who was in charge of the AMA, who created and was in charge of the AMA and made it a point to get rid of Royal Rife. Because the Rife machine wasn't going to make you no money. Yeah. Yeah, I've been knowing about Royal Rife for a while, and it's a shame. See, I couldn't become president. If I became president, I'm like, hell no, we finna do this thing. I'm gonna put some top people. We finna figure this out. Uh, yeah, research Royal Rife. It's some very interesting information, and I think that's what Terrence Howard is. He's barking up that tree, right? He's barking up that tree, and if he barks up, it's a good thing, but it's also a scary thing. You bark up that tree too much, and they will come after you, because there's no money in the cure. There's money in you being able to live with a condition for the rest of your life and have a normal life. But doctors ain't trying to cure nothing. Well, doctors and scientists are trying to cure stuff, but when they start getting close, the system shuts them down. The corporations shut them down. And that's a problem that we have in all of our societies, is that government interest and corporate interest delays true innovation. They say psychology has no cure for mental illness according to their doctors, so how they are even successful confuses me. Oh man, psychology is a hard one because you're dealing with what a person thinks about themselves and their surroundings, their environment, and that is very difficult. Um, once a person believes something, it is very difficult to get them to change their perspective on it. Now, if there is some type of chemical imbalance, that can be handled, but if it's just their thoughts and their perspective, that's the difficulty with psychology. Right? There's money in the medicine, not the cure. Just so you'll know, Xavi, nothing came up under your comment. I don't know why sometimes that happens, but just to let you know. Yeah, innovation. The guy driving cars working on peanut oil died mysteriously. You got to be careful. Look, who is his name? Elon Musk, the smartest thing that he did was, after he made that damn Tesla car, was just to give out the information freely. Just give out the information freely. That way, it's like, you can't, don't attack me. Don't attack me. Because to create something like that, and it's to that level of innovation, just give it out freely. The fact of the matter is, most people don't realize, and there's a theory, there's a thought. It's been said that Elon Musk, right before he came out with the Tesla car, went and bought up all this land along the U.S. highways, and that his ultimate plan is to own the land that people will then need to build service stations for his to recharge their cars. Now, I don't know how true that is, but service stations all over the country, at least this country, from especially when we did our cross country road trip, I saw a lot of service stations putting up the stations on their land. Yeah, and you're right. Most psychologists, they just diagnose and they don't try to heal. What they want to do is medicate you, because they get paid by the pharmaceutical companies to give you medications. That's why I don't like about the VA. They like, okay, I experienced that with the VA. They rather just drug you up than anything else. That's what they want to do. Uh, but yeah, so we're getting ready to close out, my good people. I appreciate y'all tremendously. Uh, but I'm getting ate up by some bugs out here, but that's not the reason why we're getting close to the end here. Uh, hey, T Space Bantu, you late. So if you want to see the whole live, if you've just coming in like Prima, like T Space on TikTok, on my TikTok, on my Facebook or my YouTube, you'll be able to see the whole thing and replay it. On YouTube, you might want to go and you hit the playlist and you can find Deuteronomy 29 and 30. For Facebook, it's pretty easy because it'll be the first video that pops up, if you want to watch it again, if you're just coming in. It's 3:30 a.m. in the UK. Oh, you're in the UK? Yeah, I wish I was in the UK recently. They had the carnival going on. I saw it on TikTok. I remember back in the days when I was in Germany, I used to fly up to the UK just to go to carnival. But yeah, it is what it is. But uh, I appreciate you guys so much. You like the new name, Sean? Appreciate it. I didn't realize the new name gonna cause so much damn controversy though. Like, goddamn. But so, just a couple of things to tidy up. Um, I appreciate everybody sharing, like all the videos. Become a subscriber. Become a subscriber. Then become a subscription holder on Facebook and YouTube. It helps. It helps the channel. All of those help the channel to grow, so we can build a bigger and stronger community. Um, all the other videos I produce, please watch them. Please share them. Please uh, comment on them. Your input is appreciated. I know I don't get to read everybody's input because I get about 50 to 100 DMs every day, as well as comments. To get about 50 to 100 of those every day, so I don't get a chance to read everything. But I appreciate you guys, and I try to read as much as I possibly can and respond as much as I possibly can. Um, we are planning, instead of doing a in the woods retreat, because that would cost you guys too much money, in my opinion. We are going to put together a cruise. Cruise is a lot more affordable. Um, it's a lot more affordable, and to me, it's a lot more fun. So we're going to put together a cruise instead. Uh, so look for that information. We'll put it out. We have to look for one pretty far out in the date in order to make sure that there's enough space and room, so that people can sign up as quickly as possible. So with that, I appreciate you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow evening, in somewhere between 7 and 7:30 is when we will get started. And so, as always, you remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey. Good vibrations. And I'm out.